Well, Micah and Jessica, we heard it multiple times out here from federal officials right here in front of the courthouse saying this is a precedent-setting case. This is the first time a non-U.S. citizen is being tried and has been found guilty in an American court. Within the first 48 hours after Title 42 expired, the scene out here at the border near San Ysidro has changed dramatically. It went from nothing being out here to all of this. You can see these volunteers working in the middle of the night. Look at this door ripped off its hinges. The apartment itself is right over here, and by later in the afternoon you could see that the apartment is already boarded up. All of those donations at that gas station in Jacumba packed up and brought here multiple times a day to the border, where hundreds are lining up. We've known that the number of victims since this attack has continued climbing throughout the days, but now we also know so are the number of charges. The original court documents released on Monday listed 42 counts against Muhammad Solomon, but today in the Boulder County Jail behind me, a judge said those charges, those counts are now up to 118. Right now we are coming off of a pretty uneventful evening here at what is believed to be the apartment complex belonging to that driver of the Cybertruck that exploded in Las Vegas, but now we are seeing some activity. We were all just asked to leave the area and move down the hill a couple of blocks. You can see law enforcement behind me actively blocking off Autumn Knoll Drive. Originally, right, the White House said they could have been deported as earlier this week, but now it's our understanding that they had been moved to Texas to a facility down there because Denver does not have the capabilities at their ICE detention center to house what's called family units like they are. Take a look at this shed that we came across. We can still hear it creaking every time that the wind blows. This truck is holding up the remaining walls. And we know that Colorado wasn't the only place to get such devastating damage from these storms. It happened all across the country. A massive federal operation going on here. I want to give you guys a good look at the entire scene continuing to unfold. We've been out here since 6:20 this morning. We were the first local crew out here with cameras on the sidewalk as this operation started, and you can see a growing group of protesters across the street from the apartment complex. They have been yelling all morning long at people being detained. Do not open your doors. Do not answer their questions. How different is the amount of work and the amount of rest you all are making now compared to previous administrations? Or are we just seeing more of it? Obviously, you can see it in that video. It's the magnitude of both operations. I was speaking with DEA sources yesterday who say that if yesterday's operation was a 10, they compared today's to about a 1.5 in terms of the scale and the scope. With former President Donald Trump coming to town and all of the nationwide rhetoric going on about Aurora, we wanted to come and have real conversations with people who work here and live here every single day. Jessica and Micah, I can tell you that this street is much less chaotic than it was about 10 hours ago. Around 7:30 in the morning, all we saw were law enforcement vehicles, a string of them driving up this street, parking along the sidewalk, and all of it was to get to this set of townhomes over here. Now, we are told that search warrant was actually supposed to be executed last night, but it was postponed until this morning, meaning neighbors here woke up to a very unusual scene. One thing about this Colorado Springs neighborhood.
It's pretty quiet.
Very quiet neighborhood.
Very quiet.
That quiet was disrupted in the early hours of Thursday morning, not by a noise, but bright flashing lights.
Came out and looked down at the corner of our street and saw camera crews out there and didn't know what was going on, but I thought we'd eventually find out.
And soon they did, finding out that the FBI was executing a search warrant into the home of 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger, the man accused of this, a Tesla Cybertruck going up in flames outside of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. Investigators now revealing Livelsberger died after shooting himself in the head inside of the Cybertruck before the explosion. Law enforcement agents spent nearly 3 hours at the home, neighbors watching in awe, grappling with the aftermath of a deadly start to 2025.
It's just scary never knowing who you're living next to exactly. We're pretty close with everyone on our exact row here, but not as close with the people on the other side.
It just seems to be the world we live in these days, where people have to express themselves with more violent approaches as opposed to getting help and figuring out a better way to do things.
This woman speaking with us just after the search, saying she knew the driver and never saw that Cybertruck.
He seemed normal. His wife is very nice. They just had a baby.
Denver 7 Investigates was first to report that the driver of the Cybertruck and the driver of the truck in a deadly attack in New Orleans the same day likely overlapped at the same military base. Officials confirming that the two were stationed at Fort Bragg at some point and Afghanistan in 2009. Plus, both rented the cars used in each case on an app called Turo. Still, investigators insist there is no reason to believe the two knew each other at the moment.
If these turn out to be simply similarities, very strange similarities to have. And so we're not prepared to rule in or rule out anything at this point. There's lots more for us to do in this investigation.
You know, investigators' number one priority right now is to pinpoint a motive for that explosion. We also know that the Joint Terrorism Task Force is currently investigating the case. But guys, right now it is just too early to tell exactly what went on and get a lot of the answers to questions that people still have. This entire block right in front of me was completely blocked off. Protesters lined the streets, yelling at people being detained, trying to tell them their rights, while we watched federal agents knock on the doors right here behind me before spreading throughout the rest of the apartment. Now, while all of that is gone, what does remain here is the feeling of uneasiness that some people are having who live here tonight. Before the sun was up, police lights were already lighting up this Denver intersection. The Department of Homeland Security carrying out a massive operation at the Cedar Run apartment complex. Denver 7 was there at 6:20 on Wednesday morning with FBI, ICE, ATF, and DEA agents, starting to escort suspected undocumented immigrants out of the complex and onto a bus, leaving about 3 hours later.
I got a bang on my door, and it was ICE. There was about 6 of them. They were all heavily armed and demanding ID from me and asking me to snitch on my neighbors.
Hannah Stickline has lived here for about 14 years. Other neighbors waking up to the same thing.
Is there anyone in the house?
No. The immigrants aren't the issue, really. It is the conditions, and it is an absent landlord, which is why we are now in this situation.
Denver 7 Investigates has been looking into Cedar Run for several weeks after tenants brought forward concerns over living conditions. Stickline is a member of the Denver Metro Tenants Union.
And this is all caused by a negligent absentee landlord who is using these poor people as a scapegoat.
In a statement from a spokesperson for Gelt Venture Partners, which owns Cedar Run, the company claims it was approached by the city of Denver 18 months ago to help with the immigration crisis in the city. It says the apartment was assigned a number of people to the complex, but goes on to say, quote, "Our attempt to help the city has resulted in numerous challenges, including suspected gang activity, unpaid rent, and widespread significant damage throughout our complex. We filed a records request for all correspondence between City Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer and a Gelt employee. We got this, an email on November 1st from Denver Fire Chief Desmond Fulton to Sawyer. In it, addressing concerns for the Denver Fire Station responding to Cedar Run and surrounding areas. He acknowledges Denver police provided Denver Fire with a list of addresses with members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, known as TDA. It also says fire crews have not had any, quote, negative interactions with the gang. Councilwoman Sawyer did not want to offer any comment on that letter. Denver, however, did send us a statement disputing much of the claims that the property owners made in that statement. It read in part, "We do not believe city dollars were utilized as housing support at this property." Now, a source with the city of Denver also told us that Denver police executed a warrant here as well today, this morning. However, they did not know about the federal operations happening beforehand. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck. This is a stack of documents we've been reading through. It's something we've gotten used to doing as our team keeps learning about criminal cases being tossed out when defendants are found incompetent. These are hundreds of pages that detail years' worth of court proceedings and a defendant repeatedly being picked up by police. Despite that, this accused drunk driver might have all charges dropped because of Colorado law. Moments. Caught on camera.
Whoa.
Christmas. Birthdays, Halloween.
Hey, where's my treat? That's my treat.
For the Bowman family, cameras have captured the best days and the worst.
One person is dead after a fiery crash this morning in Golden.
it has been a nonstop nightmare.
But nightmares don't normally last this long.
3 years and 3 months.
That's how much time has passed since everything changed for Joseph and Billy Joe Bowman. Investigators say Guillermo Ramirez sped through a red light on Highway 6, going more than 100 miles per hour. The car hitting an SUV that burst into flames. According to these arrest documents, Ramirez's toxicology report on December 17, 2021, the day of the crash, revealed drugs in his system, plus a blood alcohol level of 0.225. Ramirez was only 18 years old at the time.
I didn't have enough time to react. All I could do was scream, and then he hit us.
The SUV that caught fire was carrying Joseph, Billy Joe, and their 66-year-old mom, Neely.
She was the most warm, sincere, giving, loving person that you'd ever meet.
She was fearless. You know, she was a single mom. She had to be.
The months after the crash left the siblings severely burned, and their mom much different than before. Instead of holidays, cameras captured hospital visits.
Oh, you're not gonna roll, you're okay. They got the brakes on.
Neely suffered third-degree burns, multiple fractures, and eventually had her leg amputated.
She was going to be okay, but then she just slowly deteriorated because of the injuries from the accident.
About 9 months later, Neely died.
She was literally tortured for the last 9 months of her life.
The passenger in Ramirez's car also died during the crash. Ramirez now faces multiple charges of vehicular homicide.
Our mother deserves justice. We are victims. We deserve justice too, but she deserves justice far more. And the idea that this could all just be dismissed and he could be allowed to walk away is unacceptable.
Ramirez's attorneys argue he is incompetent, something prosecutors disagree with. Under Colorado law, if the court agrees a defendant is mentally unable to aid in their own defense and likely never will be, a judge shall dismiss the case. We found out this is exactly what happened in another case against Ramirez. This one in 2021 in Denver. According to court documents, he was accused of beating up his then-girlfriend, but was eventually found incompetent in 2023. The charges dropped.
It's not a 20-minute checklist.
Leora Joseph is the director of the state's Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health, the agency overseeing competency evaluations.
We look at supporting documentation. We try and get as much medical history as we can, not to mention criminal justice history.
She cannot talk about specific patients or cases, but we did have questions for her about the system after reading through these documents. In Ramirez's case out of Golden, getting him evaluated faced delay after delay. In one letter, a doctor with the state reveals Ramirez did not show up for his appointment. In another instance, his defense attorney says the state could not complete Ramirez's evaluation due to, quote, budget constraints and high caseload volume. What do you feel when you hear a doctor say, hey, we have to delay this because of budget constraints and caseload?
I think sometimes someone doing an evaluation may say budget and caseload and not understand the big picture.
Typically, when you hear the word incompetent, you might think someone is severely mentally ill. But Director Joseph says not always.
It is a reality that someone may be incompetent to proceed, and yet they're not a danger to self or other, and they are not able to be hospitalized.
But in this case, documents indicate Ramirez could be a danger.
He has gotten arrested since he hit us.
After the crash and out on bond, Ramirez was picked up once for allegedly violating a protection order and another after he was caught by Lakewood police accused of drinking tequila in a parked car.
It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when he endangers someone else.
Is there any concern that defendants might be gaming the system? Maybe they know this case will get dismissed if I'm found incompetent.
All of our evaluators, even our contract evaluators, are either psychologists or psychiatrists, and they check for malingering, which is what the faking it. I don't worry about that as much. I do worry to make sure that we have places for people to get the holistic treatment. It's not about gaming the system. It's about seeking appropriate levels of care for people.
This was her birthday.
Once again, Joseph and Billy Joe find themselves on camera, this time sitting in front of ours.
Thank you, Mom. I love you.
Calling for change in Colorado courts.
It puts us in a very sickening position. You have to go to bat at court and say he needs better care. He needs doctors to actually give a damn and actually do what is necessary to rehabilitate him to the point of competency, not because I give a damn about him or his well-being. It's because I want to put him in jail where he belongs.
We have been briefly in touch with the family of the other young woman who died in the crash and are hoping to sit down with them soon. Ramirez's defense attorney declined our request for an interview with him. It's important to remember that in this case, the judge has not agreed that Ramirez is incompetent, at least not yet. But it is a decision the court will have to make, likely at a hearing on Thursday. Before that, we will be breaking down testimony from the doctor who evaluated Ramirez, revealing how she came to her conclusion. That story coming up on Wednesday. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.